Hello again. Well, on a number of occasions recently, the van has been a little bit reluctant to start. When you turn the key, there's nothing from the starter motor until perhaps you've wobbled the van around a little bit or let it roll backwards and forwards to move the starter into a different position. So my guess is that we have some worn down brushes in the starter motor, something like that. Now if I leave that much longer, it's going to let us down and we're not going to be able to start it and we're going to be stuck. So I need to get that sorted before we do too many more trips. So let's get the old starter motor off. I've run the van up onto the ramp so we can get underneath. The first thing to do is to disconnect the earth lead from the battery. I had a look online and it looked to me from the instructions that I found that you had to remove the heat shield first by taking off the 8mm bolts. This turned out to be incorrect. I started to undo the bolts that hold the starter motor through the bell housing and realised that the stud that also holds the alternator adjuster was seized. I also spent some time trying to remove the heat shield before realising it was better to remove the motor with the shield still on, because some of the bolts are impossible to reach with the motor in position. I'm giving the mounting bolts a really good soaking in plus gas. You can see that stud is really difficult to shift. I carried on trying to release the stud with soakings of plus gas and even a soft hammer on the end of the spanner. And also extending the spanner with another ring spanner across the end of it, but nothing would shift it. Well, I've now actually managed to get a few turns on this and back it out very slightly, but now it's gone extra stiff again. I'll give it another good soak in plus gas. Might try and get some heat on it. I guess there must be something going on in the starter motor body. It must be seized in there. Maybe someone's put it in with Loctite or something like that. Who knows? Right, well, I've got myself an 11mm deep socket to go over that nut, so hopefully we can get that undone a bit easier now. Tighten it up a little bit first, and then try and back it off again. So it starts to get a bit tight. Yeah, maybe we'll do it up a little bit again. Undo again. Because as per Ryan's suggestion, a bit tight again. Tight again. We're definitely steadily getting it out. How much thread? Can't really be that much thread to go. Just keep working it backwards and forwards like this. Yeah, very weird how this is so awkward. Ah, finally it's out. Right, I think we should probably celebrate with some tea and a sandwich. Well, there it is. I think probably this area here is what was causing the problem. Yeah, there's definitely some damage on here. I wonder if it's because that little mounting area and the bell housing don't quite line up. Maybe that was the problem. Anyway, we're definitely going to have to sort that out before we bolt it back on again. So well, I've loosened these other two bolts and we can take them out now. They're very similar, but without the studding ends to adjust the alternator on. And now the starter motor should be free, but of course it's not moving. So I'll give that a tap with something. There's actually a little wire there goes onto the alternator from the starter, so we need to undo that as well. And with that little cable released, we then managed to drop the starter down. Now obviously we're going to need to undo this to take the main cable off. To make a note that that white wire goes onto there, and obviously that's our little wire that goes to the alternator. We can also get to this little nut now and take off that heat shield, and we'll save that here rather than send that away with the alternator. Yeah, always best at this stage to take a quick photo to remind you where all the connections go. So there she is, my lovely starter motor, all safely removed from the van. I'm going to give it a bit of a clean up with Cameron's toothbrush before I take it away to be looked at. Spotless by any stretch of the imagination, but it's got the worst of it off, ready for us to take it away to be checked over. Also going to take the opportunity to clean up this heat shield a bit. toothbrush or something that would make a quicker job of this, but doesn't look like I have, so you're going to have to carry on with Cameron's toothbrush. There we go, that's that heat shield clean up of it. It's not perfect, but it's much better than it was. I think we might have to put Cameron's toothbrush to the dishwasher before his next visit though. Oh well, I've found a little company out Crowland way who can refurbish my starter motor. They're not that difficult to repair yourself. You can get the new brushes and stuff to put in them, but it's just easier, I think, to get someone to do it, and then they usually know which set of brushes to order and they get the right ones in stock and that sort of thing. And they can also check all the other bits and pieces over on it as well. So I'm off there with the old starter motor and let's see how we get on. Well, I've just dropped the starter motor off at the repair place. It's a very nice fella. He does it in his back garden of his bungalow here in Crowland. I'll put a link to his website in the description below. Very friendly. I had quite a nice long chat with him about all matters starter motor and alternator related. I'm having to leave it with him as he doesn't have the parts in stock as expected, I guess, with a 30-year-old starter motor. And he'll give me a ring next week when it's ready to come and collect it. Right, well, I've got the starter motor back from the fella in Crowland and he looks to have done an excellent job. It's all been repainted, of course, but he's put me a new solenoid on, which was part of the problem. The other problem was, unfortunately I can't see it now because it's all been reassembled, but the armature of the motor was damaged, so that needed skimming on his lathe. He's also put new bearings in at this end, and also there's new bearings under that cap at the other end, and he's obviously put new brushes and stuff in it as well. So whilst I could have attempted to repair myself, I'd probably never have managed to do all that and completely refurbish the whole motor with the tools that I've got available to me in the garage at the moment. So I think it's probably the best thing to do. Now, it cost me about £120. You can still buy new starter motors for this van off the internet for around about £149. So you might say, well, that's not such a great deal then, really. But of course, they're pattern parts, probably from China. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But they are pattern parts, and from what I've heard, they are not as durable as the original motors. The fella did say that that doesn't look as if that's been off since the van was new. So that's done 30 years of service and is now completely refurbished and good for another 30 years. If I bought a pattern part and then it failed and I took that to him to rebuild, he said he'd have a lot of trouble getting everything to fit, because although it's supposed to be identical, there are sort of little differences here and there, so you might struggle to get things like bearings and that sort of thing to sit in it properly. So and by that stage I'd have probably got rid of the old Duff motor, so I wouldn't have an original one left. So I think it's probably a good thing to refurbish your original starter motor. You'll remember, of course, that we had a lot of problems getting the starter motor off because those bolts were sort of pretty seized in. That's due to them being steel bolts into the aluminium body of the starter motor. Obviously steel and aluminium, there's a bit of sort of, what do they call it, galvanic corrosion goes on, especially over 30 years. So what I'm going to do is run a die over the studs and just tap through the body of the motor just to clean up those threads. I've been into the hardware shop and it's an M7 thread. Unusually, you don't often find them in run-of-the-mill. It's usually sort of M6, M8, M10. But this is M7, so there you go. They didn't have a single die, so I had to buy a tap and die set. I do already have a tap set, but I don't really have many dies, so I didn't really mind having to buy a die set. Anyway, let's go ahead and clean those up. So there we go, there's the tap and die set I bought. I think it's made for the American market because look, it's got a national pipe thread die in it, which is the sort of American version of BSP, British Standard Pipe Thread. We'll probably never need that, but it has got our M7 die in it that we need. That's the fixing bolts done with the die. Now I'm going to have to do the holes in the starter motor with the tap. The set I've bought only has taper taps, but that's fine because they're straight through holes, so it shouldn't be a problem at all. Well, I'm not really satisfied with my efforts at cleaning up this heat shield either, so I'm going to have a go over that with the little miniature wire brush and see if we can get that a little bit nicer. Well, I'll tell you what, it's still not perfect, but I guess I've spent enough time on it for something that's inevitably within a few months going to be caked with oil and grease again. Right, well, now it's time to put this back together. First thing I need to put on is this strap that goes from the solenoid to the alternator, and that goes on here, which I know because I saved the photo that I took earlier. Put that on loosely because I've got to get the main cable from the van onto there later. Then need to put the heat shield back on. I think that's the one that I have to leave because I need to put it on. I need to fit that to the alternator bracket, I think. Right, so I need to secure this guard. Just put this one in loosely. to my 11mm deep socket. Now, I don't have a torque setting for these. There probably is one, but I'm just going to use the 2-finger technique that my granddad always showed me. Just use 2 fingers. You're very unlikely to over tighten it. Remember, it's only an aluminium body on the starter motor. I've moved you around so you can see a bit better. Trouble is, I can't. Hold on. That's the little tiny bolt that holds the alternator bracket on. Can you see? Probably not very well. But trust me, it's there. As you can perhaps tell, this is a tiny bit fiddly. Right, I think that's perfectly tight. Right, we've got those bits. Now I've got to get that. Now, you know what I've done? I've put the little wire on that goes onto the alternator. I've put it on backwards. I think we can probably rescue that though. That was a silly thing to do. Do this mainly by feel, I think. I'll maybe have to go and get an extension. Yeah, righto, well, got my extension, so should be able to do this hopefully. You know what? Probably easier just to drop the starter motor again. There we go, that's how that cable should go on and come out the end there so it can go on the alternator. Right, let's get the old starter motor back on again. Oh dear, we seem to have lost the nut that goes on the little stud on the alternator. I've got 2 nuts left in my box. One of them I know is this one to fix the alternator bracket to. Not sure what this one is, but it's not the nut to go on the alternator. I'm going to have to go and see if I can find a slightly smaller nut than this. Should have one somewhere, shouldn't I? Oh, I found one. It's a little nylock nut. Quite ideal, I suppose, but it'll do. Got me a little washer as well, so I'll put that on. Goodness knows where the original nut went. Goodness knows what that other nut is. Still, it's not a proper job if you don't have bits left over, is it? So now it's just a matter of reconnecting the battery and giving it a try. Righto, well, let's give it a try. Helps if you use the right key. Wait for the preheat light to go out. Quite a while on this. Hope we can beat the immobiliser though. There we go, can't say fairer than that. Hopefully that's Another 30 years of trouble-free starter motoring. Well, that's all for now. If you enjoyed it, press like. Subscribe if you want to see some more. And ring the bell to be notified when we upload something new.